Well, we've known each other for some time, and one of the things that I've always talked about is kind of this convergence of media, entertainment, technology, data, and how I think it's going to drive a lot of commerce and kind of leisure spending over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I feel like I've been preaching that for some time. And as I was thinking about the next startup, the next company that I wanted to start, it was difficult to limit myself to just ad tech or just media. And I really wanted to find a way to kind of take advantage of what I think is a $7 trillion global opportunity by the end of the decade, which is that kind of convergence of all of the three. And so what Swanston Labs is really a company that's going after that opportunity. And we're doing it in a pretty unique way. There's been a lot of success, particularly over the last 5 to 10 years, in terms of venture studios, where you have the efficiency of a centralized kind of management team, partnering with entrepreneurs to start new companies. What I've found is that there's a lot of efficiency and there's a lot of positive in doing that. But most venture studios don't have focus in terms of expertise by particular sector. They're generalist. And I thought it was important to have a company that was focused specifically on all the subsidiary companies touching kind of this media and entertainment space. So you could, in theory, have the efficiency of a larger conglomerate, but be able to move as fast and as purposeful as a startup. And so that's what Swanson Labs is. We're starting companies and acquiring early startups across the media, entertainment, and the technology spaces that support those verticals.
So how is deal flow going, and how is innovation going, and how are you connecting, or how do you want to connect with companies that could be part of labs?
Yeah, so the majority of the companies we're actually ideating and forming internally. So we have a team of full-time executives at Swanston Labs, many of which worked with me at Tru Optik, or were partners and in our network from working with many of the other media companies and brands that we work with over the last decade. So some close relationships and really diverse in terms of their experience across the industry. And so we're partnering with entrepreneurs in residence and other executives in residence to start companies from scratch, whether it's across gaming and Web3, which I think when we talk about revenue growth across the media and entertainment industry between now and the end of the decade, I think there's probably nothing that will grow as much as Web3 and gaming in particular. Other areas that we're looking at is things that we can be really provide some innovation across the sporting industry. So whether that's new teams, new leagues, sports technology, or even innovative venues that can manage sports events and streaming of sports. And so we have a few companies that we'll announce over the next 6 months or so that have already been in development with dedicated teams for several months now. And I'm really excited to see what this could become.
Now, Andre, this is self-funded. And what are the plans in terms of funding, capital raise? Where might this go?
Yeah, look, very fortunate in a way that I was not the last time around with starting Tru Optik. Tru Optik was, even though we had a really successful 9-figure exit, and I think have been about as influential across kind of the ad tech space, particularly across connected TV and smart speakers, as any company over the last decade, we were woefully underfunded. And it was very frustrating. And that's not something that is unique to me. I think a lot of underrepresented founders, whether Black, brown, female, et cetera, have dealt with lack of capital. This time around, because of the exit of Tru Optik and what we've been able to accomplish, that's not an issue in terms of the early stage. So everything's been self-funded to date. We absolutely will, as we scale, bring on additional capital partners. But frankly, I prioritize the ones that gave me an opportunity before and trusted me before kind of giving other people an opportunity. But yeah, we absolutely will be bringing on additional capital over the coming year.
And Andre, just looking at what you accomplished at Tru Optik, the state of data identity, which is really changing quickly, what are you proud of, and what do you hope is accomplished in that sector by TransUnion and by the data industry more broadly?
Yeah, well, one of the things when you're, I was known for across the industry prior to the acquisition was kind of just speaking my mind and saying whatever I wanted to say. You have to be a bit more disciplined than that when you're exec at a publicly traded company. But now that I'm gone, I can kind of say things without divulging anything secret. Look, I think TransUnion's already won the identity battle. It's not a matter of, obviously there'll be continued grabbing of market shares and biz dev and more companies moving for their platform. But nobody in the industry over the last 5 years hasn't made even a fraction of the investment for identity resolution as TransUnion. I think TransUnion's probably invested over $4 billion between the new stars and the True Signals and the Tru Optiks. And so I'm really excited for what the team over there is continuing to do. And I think it's just a matter of time before kind of the industry as a whole considers TransUnion the leader in that space. What I will say, though, is there's a lot of noise across the industry, not only when it comes to identity resolution, but when you look at things like ways to zero party data and clean rooms and all the things that people have been talking about for a couple of years now. I think, unfortunately, by the time somebody really wins that and people make their bets on that, I think the need or the requirements for identity to be leveraged for the totality of marketing would have already changed. I think the advent of Web3, I think the growth of out of home, as people value more and more the time that they spend out of the house, whether it's going to entertainment or dining, sporting events. I think that the way identity is going to be done 5 years from now is fundamentally different than it is now. And so I think all of these companies, whether it's the Experians, the LiveRamps, the TransUnions, or the dozens of startups across the ecosystem, are really going to have to make some upgrades or acquisitions or build new technology and solutions to really meet the needs across the ecosystem.